Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the Arise to Success show. I'm your host in this show. My name is Gehad. Just to let you know, dear listeners, is that our show today is pre-recorded, so we won't be able to take any questions. But please feel free to text or WhatsApp your thoughts about the show on 0779 481822, or you can comment on Facebook as well. Our guest today is Amina Khan, who is a yoga instructor. Amina will share with us today, inshallah, her journey with holistic health. In 2014, she was studying dentistry in Manchester University. However, due to personal experiences, she went through severe depression. This spiraled and got worse until she experienced first episode of psychosis. Amina had to leave university in her third year by the will of Allah after a long journey hospital after a year-long hospital journey. Alhamdulillah, she began to recover and saw the importance of living a holistic life, which was her motivation behind her business YogAmi. Amina started studying psychology, trained to be a yoga teacher, and turned her life around. Amina now wants to inspire people who are experiencing hardship that they can get through this. Amina, firstly, apologies that I pronounced your name as Amina. And it's so lovely to have you on the show today. And welcome to the Rise to Success. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. It's really nice to be on the show. Really excited to talk about my experiences and just share anything I can with the listeners, inshallah.
Inshallah, Jazakallah khair. And mashallah, Amina, as I was reading your bio, mashallah, your story is very inspiring and would love to hear, inshallah, more about it during this show. But if we can perhaps start with, if you can tell us more about YogAmi and what do you do as part of this business? I know you do retreats, and sadly, I missed the recent one you've had. So if you can tell us a little bit more about YogAmi and what you offer.
Yeah, so YogAmi is a health and wellness, holistic well-being lifestyle. It's all about, rejuvenation and just looking after and prioritizing our mental health. So at the moment, what I do are the getaways, which I'm sure we'll go on to speaking about later, inshallah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do, at the moment, I run like really rejuvenating getaways as part of my business. And in the future, inshallah, I want to open a space where women come and experience the meaning of a holistic life. They can come and they can have yoga, they can have massage, they can have pajama, all under one roof. This is like a big goal for me, something I'm working towards. But my business itself, YogAmi, is it's just all about being holistic and prioritizing yourself and looking after your mental well-being as well.
Sorry, Amna, you're breaking up. I'm not sure if it's from my side or from your side.
Wi-Fi is on full bars.
Okay. Hopefully it should be fine, inshallah. It was breaking up, so I'm not sure from my side. I'm hoping that inshallah it'll be all right.
Inshallah.
Right, that's great, mashallah. And maybe we should start actually getting into the inspiring story that has led to YogAmi. What has led to that?
Yeah, so it all started with I like you said, I was studying dentistry and I had a completely different plan for myself. My plan was, I'm gonna be a dentist and just live a good life, inshallah. I want to earn well and I live a good life. It was just my plan. But subhanallah, Allah had a better plan for me, and important always when I look back to realize and remember that Allah's plan is greater than any plan that we can, even imagine for ourselves. So my story really starts from when I was at dental school, and then, to be honest, I due to personal experiences, I experienced, like you said, severe depression, and I was depressed for quite a few months until it kind of spiraled and got worse until I experienced first episode psychosis. Episode psychosis is a symptom of mental health. Everyone experiences it very differently. For me, I couldn't recognize my family or friends. I couldn't speak. I was in hospital for almost a year, and it was a really challenging time for my family and my friends, of course, for myself. But subhanallah, it led me to a different path. It getting better from that experience due to the will of Allah, learning so much from the experience. And subhanAllah, it led me to realize the importance of living a holistic life, which is when I came up with my business. When I got better, I came out of hospital, miraculously got better from a very, very, very severe illness. which again, you know, I want to share with people that if you know somebody or if you yourself are going through a very severe illness, you know, Allah can cure all illnesses. You never know whose dua is going to be answered, and Allah's qadar and is far beyond anything that we can even, you know, imagine. So, alhamdulillah, you know, I got better by the will of Allah, and then I decided I don't want to do dentistry anymore. You know, I don't want to go down that path. I wanted to inspire people with their mental health, and that's when I started my business and I trained to be a yoga teacher. But it all started from a very, you know, dark place, really. Allah, you know, Allah really pulled me out of that, and now I'm able to sit here today and inshallah be inspired and inspiration to other people that if they're going through something difficult, they can also inshallah get through it as well.
Inshallah. Wow, subhanAllah. As I was listening to you, subhanAllah, it's like when you were saying that you can't recognize people around you anymore, subhanAllah. So from that to where you are now, what kind of motivated you to have that, you know, to come out? I mean, the journey of coming out of that, I'm sure, is very difficult, right? And then picking yourself up and doing something amazing, deciding not to do dentistry but focusing more on holistic health. Can you tell us more about that journey?
Yeah, so like you said, I came from a place where I couldn't, like you said, couldn't recognize people. I couldn't even, you know, speak or even articulate words. The only thing I could do was like Quran, which is a big blessing of the Quran in itself. Um, Coming from that to where I am now, I think it comes from Allah. At the end of the day, it comes from Allah. But I did put in my work as well, and it came to a point where I came out of hospital and I realized, you know, I want to make something out of this experience. I want to share with people that, you know, I know people, like, especially in our communities, you know, we go through mental health problems, but silently, and very kind of frowned upon to speak about it, especially things like depression, anxiety, and even psychosis. You know, we don't hear about it because people are very afraid to speak about it. So I think motivation comes from wanting to help other people, wanting to help other people that have, you know, been through something similar or know someone that's going through something similar. Because even the people that know someone that's going through something similar, sometimes it's even harder for them. You know, for Allah, like I don't remember a lot of what happened, but my family, my friends, you know, it's in their head and they remember it. You know, it's about I want to send a message that, you know, you can hit rock bottom, you can hit the lowest of the low, but you can climb your way back up and you can become successful, you can do good things, you can, you know, you can get out of any situation by the will of Allah. So I think that was my main motivation, just knowing that for the sake of Allah, you know, and by the will of Allah, anything can happen. And I wanted to motivate and inspire other people.
Wow, subhanAllah. And when you said there that you got it taught that you can read Quran, I
Yeah.
find that amazing. SubhanAllah. It's like the words of Allah is something that you can do when you weren't able to talk to anyone else. And SubhanAllah, you know, as you said, that could have been your way out as well, you know, for us to have that connection to Allah and to continue our worship as much as we can, even though, you know, if we feel we can't do it, we're unable, physically unable to do it. The fact that you did it, SubhanAllah, you know, that could have been one of, you know, your main way out of that, SubhanAllah. So I find that very powerful.
No, just touching on that, you know, the when like things like,
Sorry, we've lost you there.
sorry, should I turn my video off? Will that help?
Maybe try that, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I was just saying, you know, doing memorization of the Quran is something that I didn't do enough of, and I don't do enough of, but I try to do as much as I can.
So,
And
I mean, it might be better actually to turn your video back on because when I'm
okay,
seeing you, I'm understanding a bit more with the mouth movements, but it's breaking for some reason.
I was saying, you know, with the Quran, when you are prioritize doing that in your life, um, it will come to you at times when you need it. You know, keeping the Quran in your heart is something that nobody can take away from you. You know, this was a time when I couldn't actually speak to people, like my words wouldn't come out of my mouth. But you know, read the Quran, like it comes because it's a big miracle from Allah. So that's I try and tell people, you know, try, even to myself, try and do your try and keep the Quran in your heart because it will stay with you in um any situation in life.
SubhanAllah, that's so powerful. Jazakallah khair for sharing this. I found that, and I'm sure our dear listeners find that very powerful. SubhanAllah. So thank you. And I'm just going to remind our dear listeners, just in case anybody joined us a bit later, that we have Amina on the show today with us, who's a yoga instructor and the founder of YogAmi. She's sharing with us today her journey with holistic health and her own struggles that led to her amazing work that she does today. And just to remind you, our dear listeners, that this is a pre-recorded show today, so we won't be able to take any comments or questions. But please feel free to text or WhatsApp any thoughts about the show on 07779 481822, or you can also comment on Facebook. Amina, mashallah, as I said earlier, very, very powerful and inspiring story that you shared. And I also want to kind of comment on what you said about, that Allah is the best planner, is that you had a completely different plan, but your journey went in a completely different route that has led to something completely different. So it's about having that trust in Allah about His plans, because His plans are better. And when we go through low moments, sometimes we don't see it. And we just think, why are we going through this? What have we done in our lives that we deserve this? But this is Allah's plan to redirect you towards a better destination, inshallah, or better journey. So that was another powerful thing that you've mentioned. The other thing as well that I wanted to comment on is that mental health in a lot of communities is that mental health is something that we don't talk about. It's something that, if you ignore it, it's like it doesn't exist. So just ignore it. Just pretend it's not there. Just pretend you're okay. And this is something that you are damaging yourself if you are doing this, because you're not addressing a problem that if you address, as you have, Amina, it has led to a completely different journey and a better journey to what you've had. So it's very important that we do address mental health and we do treat it, because if we pretend that it doesn't exist, we're not treating it. So it's very important to pay attention to it and try to, find solutions and treatments for it, inshallah. Because Allah wouldn't make us go through something that's not good for us. So, inshallah, mental health is something that does exist, and if we pay attention to it, inshallah, and try to treat it, inshallah, it will help us, and it can lead to, subhanallah, amazing outcomes as well. So just wanted to kind of comment on that. Amna, you mentioned the importance of living a holistic life. So if you tell us more about the importance of it and what has led you to, we talked a little bit actually about what has led to that realization, but if you can tell us a bit more about the importance of living a holistic life based on your experience.
Yeah. So in terms of mental health,
Sorry, if you repeat that again, we've lost you again.
You got me again?
Yes, it's better now.
I was just saying, in terms of the what you were just saying before about the mental health, I think it's very important that if someone is going through something with their mental health, that they really try to open up and speak about it, because not is one of the worst things. It will bottle everything in, and it's really not good. Even though it's very hard to speak about it, you'll feel so much better. And getting medical help as well, it's not frowned upon, and yeah, in terms of the living a holistic life, sorry, I forgot, how do we live
the importance of living a holistic life, and then we can talk about how we can do that as well, but perhaps if we talk about the importance of it first.
So I think it's really prevention is obviously better than having to deal with any kind of problems that come after it. So
yeah,
a holistic life, so by keeping in good shape, keeping in good health, keeping in mentally, spiritually, physically, it will all it will prevent you from getting in a place where you're mentally, physically, or spiritually ill. But it's really important because holistically, we need to look at the body from a holistic perspective. So it's not like you're just going to focus on the body and just exercise and eat well and everything like that and not do anything else. Just as you wouldn't just pray and read Quran and nothing else, just as body, mind, and just as you wouldn't read and do things for your mind. So it's all about, for me, I'm very big on body, mind, and soul. It all together. We're not in Islam, we're not taught to do anything in extremes, but instead do everything, give everything its due right. So that would be, for me, like, the importance of living a holistic life is to prevent any illnesses happening, and just to stay well, inshallah.
No, that's great that you've mentioned that, because sometimes what we do is that we focus in one area and we neglect all other areas. But as you mentioned, holistic life is focusing a little bit here and there. And we don't have to go intense in all the areas, as long as we give a bit of attention here and there. And the amount of time that we spend in each area will differ depending on our needs as well, and on each personal preferences, needs, and so on. But I also want to add consistency is also very important, because if we just focus in one area and then leave it and go to the next area, or for example, if we do a little bit on one area and then leave it, it's not going to produce the best outcome. But consistency, even Islamically, consistency is very important. Even if the action is small, but keeping it consistent, because that's what leads to results. And then the balance as well. Islam is all about balance. So as you've mentioned earlier, not just focusing on one area, but balancing it between the various areas so that you can have this holistic approach. So Jazakallah khair, and for giving examples as well. And I'm just going to quickly just remind our dear listeners, because sometimes we have, individuals who come a little bit later in the show. So I'm just going to remind our dear listeners that we have Amina with us on the show today, who's a yoga instructor and the founder of YogAmi. She's sharing with us today her journey with holistic health and her own struggles that led to forming YogAmi and all the work that is related to it, which we'll talk a little bit more about it, inshallah. And just remind the dear listeners is that this is a pre-recorded show, so we won't be able to take any comments or any questions, but please feel free to text or WhatsApp your thoughts about the show on 0779 481822, or you can also comment on Facebook. So, I mean, a great tips, mashallah, that you have provided there. I was also wondering, mashallah, you talked about, your journey in terms of what were your motivations. I'm just wondering, somebody going through a lot of difficulties, they may be going through moments where they may be giving up, or they think, okay, what's the point, and so on and so on. Have you ever experienced this, and how did you deal with it, if you have?
Yeah, I think it's completely normal, and of course myself, I've gone through moments where I felt like giving up, like there's just, what's the point in doing this? I think it's important to realize that even as Muslims, even as a good person, even as anyone, you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs, and it's completely normal. You're going to have ups in your physical, in your spiritual, in your emotional, everything has ups and downs, because we're human beings. It's very important to not be harsh on yourself, when you're feeling low or down about something. Instead, just try to really acknowledge it and make the most out of what you can do. For me, personally, there were times when I honestly just gave up. Right, when I was very depressed, I felt like giving up. And honestly, alhamdulillah, it was the psychosis and the illness that shook me out of everything. So blessing for me. Otherwise, I don't know where I'd be. But I think everyone, Allah will send something to everyone in a different way, help them to kind of get out of any situation. Like, He'll give us the tools, He'll give us what we need, and we just have to kind of try and remember that this life is not meant to be perfect. This life was not made to be a perfect life. It was made as a test. So all we can do is try and strive and do our best to be a better person, and that hopefully gave me some motivation to kind of get through everything. Because if you think about this world as being perfect and as being the final abode, you're not gonna that in this.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is here the two things that kind of helped you is the Quran, reading the Quran, and the other thing as well, reading the Quran, which you mentioned earlier, and the other thing is knowing that this life is not perfect and you're not here, to aim for perfection, but to do your best. Would you say those are two things that helped you? Whether it's anything else that our dear listeners, if they're listening and they going through hardship, is there anything else that might have helped you that you can share with them, or is it those two areas that are the main ones?
There's so many things. Another thing, having tawakkul on Allah, really believing that, like, just trusting in that plan, not comparing your plan to someone else's plan, thinking they're getting married, they're getting a job, they're getting it, like, just knowing that this plan is perfect for me. And just having trust in Allah. Like, it's very hard to trust, because it's like, you, as humans, we like to have control, we like to know everything, what's happening next, what's going on next. But like, I came to a point in my life where I was like, you know what, I'm going to start a new business, I'm going to start a new venture, but I have to trust Allah. Like, there's nothing that I can I can't control all of this. I think that just having tawakkul in Allah's plan, having trust that Allah, you know, knows what's best for us better than even, you know, we know ourselves.
Yeah, and that's where the that trust comes, isn't it? Where you said it's quite hard because for individuals who like to be in control, and sometimes I go through that phases. It's like I want to be in control of the situation, I want to control it, but then this is where our iman is tested, right? It's having that trust in God because there's so much you can do, but then you leave the rest as well. You leave everything, not the rest. You leave everything to Allah. It's like, coming back to the example, tie your camel and, put trust in Allah. So these are really good tips. Jazakallah khair. Is there any, because you said there are a few things, and that's what I like to kind of focus on in the show so that, our dear listeners can be inspired, can inshallah find this helpful for them. They can use these tools. You said there are other things as well. What other tips or what other things may have helped you or you would recommend to others to help them during hardships?
Yeah, so as well, obviously, basic everything. I think
Sorry, I'm gonna have to ask you to repeat it again because I've lost you there for a second again.
I was just saying, of course, the things that we is obviously the forefront. But there are also other things that we can do, you know, that will help us to lead a holistic life, which will help us to then, basically prevent any kind of illnesses or help us to get through things. So some things that I like, basically, I'll mention this when I talk about our getaways, but I do like a bit of a wellness workshop in our getaways. And then some things I mention are things to do with faith and also things to do with routine, things to do with, exercise, nutrition, looking after your body. You know, there's a lot of things that holistic well-being kind of contains that is more than, just praying. You know, obviously we pray and we have try and have khushu and everything, but there's so much more in your life that you need to be focusing on to live a holistic life as well. You know, like eating well, you need to be sleeping well, you need to be exercising well. So all of these little things, even having a good routine, you know, in the morning, I have so many tips for a good morning and evening routine. All of these things will help you to kind of just be healthier in all aspects of your life as well, inshallah.
Great, Alhamdulillah. We've got a few minutes before we go for a break. So, if we can suggest something to our dear listeners to kind of have a holistic life, if we can give few tips that can help them implement it from today before we go for a break.
So, a few tips. I would say one of the most important things for me is routine. So trying to have a good routine in your life where, you're waking up with the sunnahs, the du'as of waking up, and also little things that will all add up. For example, like, not having your phone in a separate room to where you sleep, so it's not distracting you. Or essential oils are very good to put in the house, and it can like really wake you up in the morning, especially when you kind of smell certain smell in the morning. For example, like lemongrass is good in the morning. Anything that is gonna, like, trying to avoid caffeine at specific times, because then your body will just become very, very used to it. And all there's lots of little tips and tricks that you can do as part of a routine. That would be one thing I'd say on the life.
So, Amna, do you mind just getting closer? Because I notice when you get closer to your device, we can hear you clearly. Thank you. Yeah, great.
Alhamdulillah. We figured it out.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, and then investing in yourself. So things like, like hijama and massages, everything like this, it's the things which we see as, it's expensive, it's going to cost us a lot of money, but at the end of the day, you'll, if you want to prioritize something, you will find a way to do it. And things like hijama really, really helped me. It gave me a lot more energy and a lot more, mainly for the energy, to be honest. It was very, very good for me. And it's a sunnah, we shouldn't be afraid of. I know people get very scared of things like hijama, but
Oh, I love hijama. I'm addicted to hijama.
But all these things that we need to be trying to do to invest in ourselves, try and feel good and feel mentally well and physically well, all will help lead a holistic life. So just trying to prioritize that over over, like, especially when your life gets busy and you've got so much going on, just taking a step back and thinking, no, I need to do this, like, for myself as well.
Yeah. Now, these are great tips, and perhaps, inshallah, after the break, we can talk a little bit more about self care because that is very, very important. It's an area that we neglect quite a lot. And I speak for myself, I'm guilty of that. I have neglected it. But then when I started doing it, it made a huge difference to my life. Alhamdulillah. So just going to quickly wrap up what we've been discussing and just remind our dear listeners that we have Amin on the show today, who's a yoga instructor and the founder of YogAmi, and we're talking about holistic health today and how we can maintain a holistic health and Amina's own journey towards holistic health as well. So inshallah, we will go for a little break. So our dear listeners, this is Inspire FM Luton on 105.1. We'll be going for a short break, inshallah, and we'll continue talking about Amina's work and her business, which is YogAmi, what she does with that. So there's a lot of great things that we'll be discussing after the break. So please do stay tuned, and we'll see you very shortly. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Arise to Success show. We have Amina Khan with us today, who is a yoga instructor. Amina sharing with us today her journey with holistic health. In 2014, she was studying dentistry in Manchester University. However, due to personal experiences, she went through severe depression. This unfortunately spiraled and got worse until she experienced first episode of psychosis. Amina had to leave university in her third year, and by the will of Allah, after a year-long hospital journey, Alhamdulillah, she began to recover and saw the importance of living a holistic life, which was the motivation behind her business, YogAmi. Amina started studying psychology, trained to be a yoga teacher, and turned her life around. Amina now wants to inspire people who are experiencing hardship that they can get through this. And just to remind you, our dear listeners, is that this show is pre-recorded today, so we won't be able to take any comments or questions. But please feel free to text or WhatsApp your thoughts about the show in 0779 481822, or you can also comment on Facebook. So Amina, with great things that we were discussing before the break, which is your story of how you got to Yogami and the importance of living a holistic life. And just before we go for the break, we were talking about some tips which can help our dear listeners to live a holistic life. And one of the things that we discussed is self care. And I'll add self love as well, which is something that is Islamic as well. A lot of people think that self care, self love is selfish, but it's not, because when we take care of ourselves, when we love ourselves to a level that we are taking care of ourselves, it helps us to take care of people around us. Because when we are in a state of happiness, we influence the people around us. For example, I don't know if you can relate to this, Amina. My mom, for example, the mother is like a big part of the home. If she's upset, the whole house is dead. If she's happy, everybody's lively, right? Subhanallah. So it's the importance specifically for women to have that for themselves. And I always emphasize, if you struggle to make time for self-care and self-love for yourself because it may seem selfish, please do it for those around you, because when you do it, you're able to be more present for the people around you. You're able to give them more, and when you're happy, everyone else inshallah around you is happy as well. So that's the power of women, subhanallah, is that their energy influences those around them, specifically mothers. So it's very important that this energy is maintained and looked after and kept positive, so that we can take care of those around us as well. So Amina, back to you. What tips can you give for people to include self-love and self-care in their lives, or anything that they can do, even if it's very small, daily basis, consistently, sorry, so that we can keep that consistency in place. Because when we do this, we make sure that we continue this process, and it makes a difference to our lives, inshallah.
Yeah, no, alhamdulillah, you're right. Definitely. There's so many things we can do as part of self-care. And I think as well, like self-care is important, of course, like for others as well, but it's also in your own self. If you are looking after yourself and feeling well about yourself, you will perform better in your ibadah as well. Like if you sometimes, like, we're praying but we're distracted, we're thinking about this, we're thinking about that, we're not focused. But if you have like a sense of kind of confidence in yourself and a sense of kind of peace in yourself, and you've looked after your well-being, when you're praying, inshallah, you will have more khushu, because you you're not, your mind is not racing. So I'd say the importance of self-care extends, it's us, it's for us, it's for others, but it's also, for our hereafter, which is what everything should kind of connect back to. And I always say to people, when we do anything in life, always try and connect it back to your purpose. So even whether it's going to work, whether it's doing self-care, even whatever it is, connect it to the fact that this is going to make you worship Allah better, and be a better Muslim. And even going to work and helping others, or whatever you're doing in your work, try and connect it back to your purpose, and then inshallah everything you do will be a form of ibadah. Your life will be a form of ibadah. So yeah, I just want to mention that on the self-care, we can do it to become a better Muslim and a better person. Things we can actually do practically, one big thing that a lot of women, we don't do, especially when we get busy being a daughter, being a mother, being a wife, whatever it is, we neglect we just neglect ourselves. We're thinking about so much about others that we forget about ourselves. Whether that be just taking a moment and just sitting down, maybe reading a book, maybe just having like an evening where you put a face mask on, you have a bit of a relaxing evening. All these little things. It's hard, especially like if you have kids or if you have a busy life, it's hard to make time for yourself. But I always say that if something is important to you, you will prioritize it. And it's just about realizing the importance of self-care. So once you realize how important it is for your ibadah, for your family, for yourself, for everyone around you, like you said, you'll begin to prioritize it, and you will include all these little elements of having self-care into your life. I think it starts from realizing its importance, and once you realize its importance, everything will come with that. You'll start to give yourself more time, maybe go on a walk, maybe have a bit of time where you do your hifz, maybe at fajr time when it's nice and quiet and your mind is, you might feel tired but your mind is actually subhanAllah, very active. Whatever it is, even if it's something you enjoy and you just enjoy a particular coffee shop and you just like sitting there, like, go do it. Don't think that this is wasted time. Resting, looking after your body, looking after your mind is not wasted time. It's all about your intention and where your intention lies, inshallah.
Inshallah. I love what you mentioned and how you related it to our purpose as well. So even when you're resting, even subhanAllah, even when you're sleeping, we have the intention that we're doing it to rest for for our purpose or for the sake of Allah. So even with self-care and self-love, to everybody, specifically those who are struggling to do it, just think of it that you're doing it for the sake of Allah. So that you can feel energized, you can feel, give yourself more ability to look after others as well. Because that rest, the reason why we sleep is because to give our bodies rest. Because if we keep going for days, we're going to collapse or something's going to happen. So if we think about it the same way for self-care as well, is that we're doing it just to kind of give us more space, more energy, and so on and so on. So we can always to for those who find it difficult and feel guilty about it, relate it always or correct your intention to doing this for the sake of Allah, right? So I love what you said there. So jazakallah khair for sharing, and inshallah it will help others, those who are struggling to have kind of or to include self-care and may see it as a waste of time.
Yeah.
Also, what you mentioned about the kids as well. The mothers who have kids, they do struggle to have the time because they invest all that time in their kids. I think that's something really, really important for the kids to learn as well, is that you tell them, okay, this is me time. You need to just leave me alone and just give me that me time, because then the kids learn those boundaries. They learn the importance of self-care as well. And that's something is very important for them to know as they're growing up, and to know those boundaries that, okay, mom needs her time, dad needs their time as well. So they respect that, and then they also learn that this is something important for them to do. And again, relating it to the religion and having that intention for the sake of Allah. I don't know if you've heard of Sheikh Mikhail Smith. I've come across him lately, and I've taken a course with him. And what you said, it just reminded me about what he said. Where you said that self care helps us with our relationship to God. This is something that he's including. He's a revert, and he studied, mashallah, a lot about Islam and psychology from the Islamic perspective as well. And he talks about connection with ourselves. The more we connect with ourselves, the more we connect to Allah, the more we connect to others. And subhanAllah, since I started taking the course with him, I'm going to give a tip quickly about it, is that my prayer has completely shifted, subhanAllah. When I stand to pray, I'm so connected to Allah. Whereas in the past, it's like, okay, you know what, when you're praying, your mind is giving off, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do that, right? But subhanAllah, the more we connect with ourselves, the more we start to connect to our Lord. So that is the importance of self-care. And one of the ways that he mentioned about, connecting to the self, and that can be a tip for our dear listeners as well, is journaling on a daily basis. Journaling is something I never paid attention to, and I never do it. So I started doing it the way he said. And what he said is that at the end of the day, whenever you want to do it, some people like to journal at the start of the day or midday or the end of the day. For me, end of the day is best because I know the events that happened that day. Or sometimes, when something really something happened that is quite severe and cause some sort of emotions, then I go to journal straight away. So what he said is that dig deeper into the feelings. How was I feeling that day? Why was I feeling like that? And kind of go deeper and deeper. It's like, why was I feeling this way? And label those feelings. And in fact, he told us to download something called Emotional Meter or something like this. And in fact, I'm going to show it here so that those who are watching the videos, it's like this. Basically, it has the different emotions in there. Mood meter is called. And what you do is look at it. Look at the different moods that shows in there and take one of the moods and relate it to that feeling that you've had. So that way you are labeling your feeling, you're becoming aware of your emotions, and therefore you're able to regulate your emotions. And if you do this on a daily basis, subhanAllah, it made a huge difference to my life, because then you are aware of what caused that feeling and then you deal with it. Because what happens sometimes is that something something happened our day that may have upset us. We leave it. Next thing happens, we leave it. Next thing happens, we leave it. And then by the end of the day, it could be just that our child tells us something, we snap at them, right? So it's not that the child made me angry, it's all the things that have piled up throughout the whole day that caused that. So you become more aware of it, more connected to yourself. When you stand up in Salah, you are more connected to your Lord. With your children, with your family, you're more connected, you're more present. So subhanAllah, just from 1 week of doing it made a huge difference. So I thought I'd provide this tip out there, inshallah, for our dear listeners, inshallah, to benefit from it. So yeah, sorry, I've taken a bit of your time, Amina, talking about all of this, but I thought, this will be beneficial.
No, alhamdulillah, it's very, very beneficial. Just touching on what you were saying, it's important to, a lot of people, they kind of struggle with this thing of, when you're praying, trying to control your thoughts and have that khushu. Like you said, everything you said is really, really going to help them. Also, inshallah, something that helped me is, the side of yoga where so a lot of people think it's just for exercise, which is good. Like, it is for the exercise and for the stretching and everything like that. But it would also, doing yoga, it allows you to gain a skill of kind of controlling the thoughts, kind of, when you're still and you have to control your thoughts. Otherwise, it's very much forces you to be in that kind of a position. And I think that's a skill that I have been able to apply to my salah. It's just inshallah, I try my best not to be distracted by so many things. And I think it's actually a skill that we need to try and develop that throughout the generations and time. And as things get faster and instant gratification, everything like this, we're losing this skill. So that's another thing that really helped me as well.
Absolutely, that's amazing. And those moments of silence as well are very powerful, which you do. It tends to happen in yoga. So it's, as you said, it's not just exercise; it's also mentally. It's very good for your mental.
Yeah.
So yes, that's great. So I'm just going to quickly remind our dear listeners that we have Amina with us on the show today, who's a yoga instructor, and she's sharing her own journey with holistic health and how she, mashallah, got to having YogAmi. And we're going to talk a little bit more about YogAmi actually now, Amina. So if you can tell us more about it, what you do as part of YogAmi, the getaways, and how do they actually help with the body, mind, and soul?
Yeah, so at the moment I hold YogAmi Body, Mind and Soul Muslim Getaways, and it's a chance for women to kind of take a step out of their busy life and just rejuvenate, reflect, and just become a stronger person, so that when they go back to their lives, it's not just like they had a break and they had a it's like they have skills that they can implement into their life that will help them to lead a more holistic life. So in our getaways, it's usually like a long weekend break. You know, we stay in a really beautiful accommodation. You know, the last one that we had a really nice pool and fireplace and everything nice and cozy for everyone to really rejuvenate and relax. You know, we have really nutritious and delicious food. You know, it's important that we're giving our body that right that it deserves. So, you know, we fuel ourselves with good food over the weekend, and there's so many things that are included in the getaways that I do. So it's not just about coming and just relaxing, you know, it's so much more than that. You know, we have time management workshops, we have wellness workshops, we have tajweed and tafsir classes. Our last tafsir class, we focused on Surah Al-Duha. A lot of the sisters were very emotional, very inspired by how much. The thing about the Quran is that you can take one ayah, you can reflect on it for so long, you can come back and then you can learn so much more again. SubhanAllah, you know, so, and it's about that connection, you know, it's about bringing these sisters together who really can connect on a deeper level, who can really understand each other, because we've all come for the same purpose, which is to better ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. And that is the most important thing. Sorry.
Yeah, take your time. It's all right. So that's fine. Take your time. So I'm just gonna comment a little bit more about that, because it's part of self-care as well, right? Having that time for yourself. And as you said, it's not just about having fun, it's also about learning, you know, about the Quran, the tafsir, and it leads to the holistic life that you talked about earlier, right? It's having, you know, the different areas, a bit of here and a bit of there. Go ahead. Sorry, you want to carry on?
Yeah, sorry, I think I get a bit excited talking about
Don't worry.
The thing is, the sisters that kind of come together, you know, like I said, we've all come together for the same purpose. And I think that, like, the way that my sisters kind of connected with each other on this, you know, level, when we finished the getaway and I asked them, how did you find it and how's everything, you know, the one thing that really stood out to everyone was this connection, that, you know, that sisterhood, that, you know, I was with sisters that really understood me, that were really, you know, on the same level as me in terms of, like, maybe we're all at different stages, but we're all here together and we're all here to better our relationship with Allah, and to just, and you feel like it's very hard. I always tell people it's very hard for me to explain the feelings of these getaways, because it's something that you will not understand until you come on a getaway. Like, everyone that's been on the getaway they can tell you, but for me it's very difficult. But like, you know, it's all about rejuvenation, it's all about prioritizing yourself, and it's all about gaining skills, so that when you go to your life, you're better at time management, you're better at, you know, understanding, kind of, you know, just not putting so much pressure on yourself, realizing that it's all part of a greater plan, and just living a better, more holistic and a more positive life. You know, sometimes we get stuck in this dunya where it's like, you know, go to work, go home, go this, cook, clean. Like, it's too much. You know, we need to take that break. We need to step away from that world. It's like a nice, humble abode with beautiful sisters, and then come back and inshallah be stronger.
Absolutely. And again, you know, we can bring that, you know, and having the intention for the sake of Allah, right?
Yeah.
So we're still having fun, we're still enjoying the sisterhood, we're still enjoying the time, but we're having it for the sake of Allah. And I love how you said, you know, you related to the other ladies as my sisters. I thought that was so sweet.
Like you said, his intention is the most important thing. You know, we start the getaway with our intentions, introducing each other and our intentions, and we end on our intentions, because this is the most important thing, you know, in life. You know, everything you're doing, if you try and do it with an intention of pleasing Allah, you know, I'm not just taking this time just to relax because I just want to relax. No, I'm gonna relax so that when I go back to my busy life, I will be able to be a better wife, a better daughter, a better mother, a better everything, you know, a better person for the sake of Allah. So inshallah, that's really important what you said. Yeah.
Absolutely love it. And how often do you do these getaways? Is it just during the summer? What kind of places do you go to? Just to kind of get our dear listeners excited about it as well.
Yeah. So we've just finished our first getaway, actually.
Oh, lovely.
Really well, Alhamdulillah. And more information, I can tell you where to find it all. But the thing, in terms of, like, the next getaway, because the thing is that the getaways for me take a lot of preparation, not just a quick thing that I do.
Yeah.
So it will be in a bit of time, inshallah, but all the updates are mainly on my Instagram. So it's I am YogAmi as my Instagram, and all the updates are on there. You can find all the kind of the highlights of the getaway the getaway that just happened. You want to see like what actually happens, what are people saying about it. It's hard to capture, you know, a feeling, but inshallah is the best we can do. But inshallah is all on my Instagram. It's at I am YogAmi.
Yeah, great, mashallah. And you know, when you said earlier that, you know, with the getaways, it's different to explain the feelings. It's like you have to try it. It reminded me of, subhanAllah, you know, going to Mecca and Medina. Everybody who would go, they would say that I can't describe the feeling. You know, it's different when you see it. And until I saw it, I was like, you know, I couldn't relate to it. I was like, how? I see it on TV or, you know, in pictures. I'm like, oh, okay, you know, great. You know, it brings nice feeling. But then when you go there yourself, and subhanAllah, the first time you see Mecca or into Medina, it's like, wow, you can really know what people mean when they say you have to try it. So when you said about the getaways as well, it's like you can talk about it, but the feeling of it is when you experience it yourself, then you can really know the feeling of it. So inshallah, you know, I've never actually, have I ever been? No, I don't think I've ever been to retreats or getaways. It's always been in mind. It just never happened. And subhanAllah, with yours, I've been actually considering it, but because of my circumstances, I wasn't able to do it. But inshallah, in the future, inshallah, our dear listeners, if they are interested, they've got that possibility as well.
Yeah.
So before we end, I mean, that has been a really great conversation, especially, you know, when we talk about holidays and all of these things, it brings this kind of special excitement. So before we end, can you perhaps tell us or tell others, you know, our dear listeners, inshallah, if anybody's experiencing hardship, and we all go through hardship sometimes. I mean, if we're not experiencing it now, you know, at some point, you know, we do go through a bit of hardships. What can we do today? What can we do during those times in order for us to start living a holistic life to help with the situation and to kind of include some self-care in our lives as well?
Yeah. I think the first thing, if for anyone who's going through a really hard time or who kind of knows somebody who's going through a hard time and it's affecting them, the first thing is always just to reconnect to your relationship with Allah. You know, it's sometimes when we're stressed, when we're upset, you know, we pick up the phone, we call someone, which is fine. You know, we're here to support each other. But the first point of call should be Allah. You know, just try and really reconnect, try and strengthen that bond so that the first thing you think of is, I need to speak to Allah. And then you speak to Allah, and then you can speak to your friend, you can speak to your family. It's fine, it's allowed. But trying to just better that relationship so that is your, you know, the thing that is your first kind of point of call. Also just trying to have hope, you know, knowing that, you know, we have a good opinion of Allah. We know that Allah is everything is He is doing for us is for our benefit. You know, trying to have that opinion of Allah where it's like, you know, we know in our hearts that maybe we're going through something really difficult. Maybe it's been difficult for so long. But at the end of the day, Allah knows what He is doing. You know, we don't know that. We don't know what's best for us. We don't even know what we're doing half the time.
Yeah.
You know, Allah, He knows that. He knows the plan, and there is a greater plan. Inshallah, you know, have a positive view of that. You're being rewarded for everything as well. You know, we don't have to be ashamed of wanting reward. You know, I want reward, but you want reward. Have a positive view of Allah. And then, of course, try and implement whatever you can do as well. So in terms of like your self-care, in terms of your holistic health, in terms of, you know, everything we mentioned about routine, trying to kind of implement this into your life, yourself as well. So you're putting your effort in. So you're trusting Allah, but you're also putting in your own effort as well. I think will help you get through tough times, you know, but always have it at the forefront of your mind that, you know, there is someone else that has been through something like this, and you know, Allah has pulled them out of it, and if it's not in this world, it will be in the next world. You know, there will be a time when I will see why everything happened the way it did. Yeah. So just having that at the forefront of your mind, I think, is very, very important, inshallah.
Absolutely. Jazakallah khair for that. So you talked about the connection with Allah, having hope, having that trust in Allah. And I'm going to just add a few things here as well, which the self-care as well, because these things, mashallah, they're very, very helpful. But as you said, also to kind of have a holistic approach so that you are touching upon all the different areas. You know, for those people who, and that tends to happen quite a lot when I ask my clients, because I do counseling, for example, ask them, what are your hobbies? They're like, oh, I don't know. And you have to think quite hard. So find a hobby. If you don't have a hobby already, find a hobby and try to do it on, daily, weekly basis. It could be as simple as just to draw. And I tell my clients who like to draw 5 minutes a day. It could be just that. That's how much it takes. Just 5 minutes a day. Have that time for yourself, and slowly, slowly, you get used to making that time for yourself. You get to see the the outcomes, or the influence of that time in your life. Sometimes when we talk about self care and self love, is that we don't see how much it's going to affect our lives until we try it.
Mm. Yeah.
So include it, for a week, for 2 weeks, and then you will notice the difference it has in your life, and then inshallah you can keep that consistent as well. So having that spiritually, having that self-care as well, so connecting to Allah, having hope, as you mentioned, having tawakkul on Allah, doing your taking care of your spiritual side, as well as your because on the day of judgment Allah will ask us about how we spent our lives, right? And what we done with our youth, how we spent it. So making sure that you invest in yourself wisely, having that intention, bringing it back to what you said, having that intention that you're doing it for the sake of Allah, for your purpose as well. So inshallah, everything we do, even if it's self-care, even if it's holidays, getaways, and all of that, we're getting reward for it if we correct our intentions, inshallah. So Jazakallah khair, Amna. This has been a really, really interesting conversation. I loved it, and inshallah our dear listeners have enjoyed that as well, inshallah, and benefit from it. So Jazakallah khair, Amina, again. And inshallah, dear listeners, I hope that you enjoyed today. And just to remind you, dear listeners, this show takes place every Monday, 6 to 7 p.m. And just to let you know about our next week's guest, inshallah, so you can tune in. Next week's guest is a TV presenter, a co-host of a podcast, and also the founder and CEO of NHT London, which is a business promoting natural hair products and educational workshops and programs to teach about self-care and self-love. So we just, subhanAllah, talking about self-care and self-love, and we have our next guest to talk a little bit more about that. So dear listeners, please do stay tuned. And also, if you know, or if you are someone who would like to share your story and on our radio show to inspire others, please do get in touch with us on 0779 481822. We'd love to hear from you. Amina, Jazakallah khair again. It's been a pleasure having you. Jazakallah khair, everybody. And thank you very much for tuning in.